Hi everyone, Janie here with another Scrapbook Blessings Club tutorial, and this is part 2 of Distress Ink techniques. This week we're going to be exploring watercolor techniques, so stay tuned and let's head on over to my craft table. The first techniques I'm going to show you are simple watercolor techniques, and you will need a little spray bottle of water and either a blending pen. It's like a little marker at one end, and actually the other end also has a finer point, and it has a liquid inside of it that you don't see. And the other one has liquid inside that you do see. This is a water brush, and so it has a little brush here on one end and water up here in the tube. Or you can just use a small paintbrush and some water. But these are my favorite things to use. And then, of course, this is Distress Inks techniques. So you're going to need some Distress ink. And today I am going to use Dusty Concord, which is kind of a purple color. And I'm using this cute little flower stamp, which you really can't see the detail, but you will when I stamp it. And that is from Botanical Frames. And there's the little flower right there. And this is a hot off the press stamp set, which you can get at Paper Wishes. Okay, so let's get started here. The first thing I want to show you is what the stamp looks like just being stamped. So see if you can see that. Beautiful detail there. Okay, now we are going to stamp it again, and this time we're going to use the water brush. And I'll see if you can get a closer look at this in a minute after I've done this, because I can't zoom in for some weird reason with my camera. But really quickly here. The lighting is good. Sometimes I see people do this and it helps. Not in my case, but as you can see, the ink actually spread around. It was activated by the water, and so you could fill in your flower. Okay, so now you've seen two. I'll hold them up together so that you can actually see the difference. Okay, and now for the next technique, we're going to use the spray bottle. So again, let's get some ink on here, except that this time, move everything out of the way so I can get more in front of the camera here. We're going to spritz it and stamp it. And it looks like I had a little bit too much water on there, so I'll get another one to show you. And that is something you're going to have to work with. You do not want to get too much water on the stamp. And so let's try this one more time. Actually glad that happened so that I can let you see what happens if you get too much on there. Okay. I'm going to try to spritz it from more of a distance this time. And stamp. There we go. So it spreads out a little bit more with more of a watercolor effect. Again, let me show it to you next to the other one so you can see the difference there. And I have a sheet here that I actually stamped them on. So here we go. This one was spritzed with the spray bottle. This one here was stamped and I used the blending tool on it, the blending pen. This one was stamped and I used the water brush, and this one was just stamped. And the same thing with the butterflies, so you can see all the different effects you can get. The really nice thing about Distress ink is it is activated with water, so you can, do this, the coloring, the watercoloring with it. So those are the 3 for right now, and I will be right back and I'll show you another watercolor technique. For this next technique, I stamped the images using Memento Tuxedo black ink, and I did this because I didn't want the ink to smear when it gets wet. And I have 2 images stamped here, and I'm going to do one with the water brush and one with the blending pen. So what you will need, obviously, is a water brush or a paintbrush and water, a blending pen, excuse me, and you can put the ink directly on your craft mat if you have one, but I don't want to make a mess right now, and I often use an acrylic stamp block. So check that out. You can see all the lights on my ceiling. Okay, so here's what we do. I'm going to start off with, this is picked raspberry, and I'm just going to smear it right there on the acrylic block, just like that. I'm going to get my water pen here, and I'm going to pick up some of the ink. As you can see, I'm kind of smearing it around. It's getting nice and wet. And then I'm going to come over here and use it just like watercolor. Now I'm going to thin this out a little bit. There we go. So you have some control here. You can make it as light or as dark as you want to. You can use more than one color, but on this I am just going to use the one so that you can get an idea. But just like with other watercolors, or even with your Spectrum Noirs or anything else you color with, you can use a variety of colors and, to make the shading, to make it darker and lighter where you want it to. So there we go. Isn't that just beautiful? And it's so easy to work with. Okay, now I'll do the other one. And we will use, let me turn this around here. I don't want to get my colors mixed. I chose Wild Honey. I'm trying to show you a variety of colors so that you can see what they're like, because there's just so many of them. All right, so now I'm going to use this little blending pen, and I'm just wiping it around in the ink, and then adding it to the flower. And I wipe it out a little bit further, as you can see I'm doing, if I want to get the color a little bit lighter, or at least trying to get it a little bit lighter. You can even add a little water to it if you want, but usually with a blending pen you don't. Okay. There you go. It's pretty awesome. It's fun. I actually love using my distress inks for coloring quite often. And when you're all done, you can just wipe off your craft mat or your acrylic block. It makes it really nice. And voila, you are done. It was that simple, and you can color anything you want. There you go. Thank you for watching today, and I hope you learned something new. And before we go, I would like to show you a couple of cards I made using that last watercolor technique that I showed you. So there's this one, and I used that watercolor technique over here on the bear. And the background is another distress ink technique that I'm going to be teaching you next time. And another one, I use that same technique on coloring the little girl's dress, not her hair, but the rest of her. And so you can see that you can use distress inks with your paint brushes, your water brushes, your blending pens, and do so much with them. And then of course there was the other watercolor techniques that I showed you earlier, and those are also beautiful. So I hope you try it, and if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. I will be happy to answer your questions for you. Thank you and happy crafting. Bye-bye.